And welcome into the Gary Ayd Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Online at cavetalkradio.com and the Cave Talk Radio app. Great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd here with you. Rich and Selma will join us in hour number 2. A lot to get to today as usual. The first thing, though, I want to talk about, of course, is Game 2 of the NBA Finals. And we'll talk about this in different contexts, I'm sure, throughout the course of the show. I'm sure Rich will have some opinions on this in hour 2. But, I watched this game last night, and all I could think of is two things. Jokic is far better than anyone on either team, and Denver's guys 2 through 8 played essentially one quarter in this whole game. They got out to the terrible start. They let the Heat get up big on them. They come all the way back. The Nuggets get up by about the same margin, maybe a little less, as what the Heat were up on them earlier in the game. And then that's it. And then basically from that point forward, it was Jokic trying to will his team to win, and they almost did it. But Aaron Gordon, 38 minutes, 12 points. And he's by far the best option here, right? Michael Porter, invisible, 26 minutes, 2 of 8, 5 points. Caldwell Pope, 36 minutes, 1 of 3 from 3, 1 of 4 from distance, had 6 points, only because he had 3 free throws. Jeff Green played 16 minutes, took 1 shot, had 9 points, did get to the free throw line. Their second best player last night was probably Brendan Brown, who is a seldom used swingman, who had 11 points in 27 minutes. It was found money. That was it. Murray had 18, but he was 7 of 15, which is pretty good, and 10 assists. His numbers look okay, but you need more from him than that. You need 25 to 30, not 18. I'm watching this game, and I just thought to myself the whole time, it's just Jokic. Jokic was amazing. 41 points, 11 rebounds, only had 4 assists, but that was mostly because his guys couldn't make shots. 16 of 28 from the field. It was sensational. The way I saw this game, Denver gift wrapped it to Miami. And I know we're talking they're 3 wins away from winning the whole thing. Sometimes a championship team is not a great team or not even the best team. I look at this Miami team, and they may even win the title. Even if they do, I'm sorry, I'm not impressed. This is a team full of good players that everything's going right at the right time of the year. It's the same way I felt with the Royals in 2015. It's the same way I felt at times with certain Super Bowl champions, teams that appeared in the Super Bowl. I've seen teams make it to the conference finals. Atlanta comes to mind a couple of years ago. I'm talking about the NBA conference finals now. It doesn't happen a lot, but I would say once every 7 to 10 years, maybe twice every 10 years, there's a team that gets everything to go right at the right time. They end up winning a title or making the deep run, and people overrate them. This is why I'm a huge proponent of the regular season. See, the regular season best teams to me are the best teams. I don't care what happens in the playoffs, because that amount of sample size tells me what I need to know. Yes, there is a balancing out of that to a degree because of the fact that mixed in all those 82 games are games against a lot of bad teams. I get that. And that's certainly a factor. But over the scope of that many games, you learn the true median or the true aggregate of every team. And the team with the highest aggregate, to me, is the best team. Who wins a short series tournament doesn't determine who the actual best team is. It might determine who the best team is for that 2 months. It might determine who the best team is in a particular series, or maybe it has a particular matchup that works against one team and not another. There's a million factors. Think about it like this. The playoffs is essentially what? 3 months, right? It's really 2 months. It's May and June, half of April, 2.5 months, right? If you were to just take any 2-month period in the course of the season, or just do it on a series by series basis. The whole playoffs is 2 months. A series is what? 2 weeks? Take a random 2 weeks and just say, okay, who's the best team in that 2 weeks? Then pick another random 2 weeks. Who's the best team in that 2 weeks? Do that 8, 10 times. I bet you'll find 8 to 10 different answers. That illustrates the fallacy of the playoffs proving anything. The playoffs in every sport are a crapshoot. They're designed to produce a exciting, interesting end to a long season. They're designed to produce high drama and a sort of now or never type of vibe. And they do those things wonderfully well in every sport. But we as a media and we as a sports fan community have ascribed to them something that doesn't belong there, which is proof of superiority. I believe, and I always have, that winning a 7-game series most of the time proves one team is better than the other, but not always. When a series goes 7 and it's close throughout, you pretty much say these teams are about equal. When a series goes 7 and one team in that series was less than impressive for a lot of the year, at least I say, well, they got hot at the right time. And I just don't think that much of Miami, and I'm never going to. I'm not going to think much of this team. I like Bam Adebayo. I like Jimmy Butler. I like some of the storylines. It's cool that these underdogs are doing whatever, I guess, but the bottom line is they don't impress me. Denver gave this game away yesterday. Half their guys just didn't show up. Most of their guys really just didn't show up, didn't play right. And they're playing with fire. They really are. So I really hope that that they win this thing. I think they were the best team in the West all season long. I thought Milwaukee was the best team in the NBA. And, I really wish that we had what we used to have in sports, which was the best teams just played for the title. When I see an 8 seed or a 7 seed or whatever, unless there was a major overhaul of their roster late in the year where their record is sort of belied by the fact that they're essentially a new team from the actual material on their roster, barring circumstances like that, because we have seen that throughout the years in sports. We saw it this year with the Lakers. We've seen it in the past with, the Mets did this a few years ago. They were lucky that year. The year they went to the World Series. They weren't a World Series caliber team. I'm a Met fan. They weren't a World Series caliber team. But Cespedes and Murray both got hot and became Gehrig and Ruth for a couple of months. And then they became Cespedes and Murphy again for the World Series, and they lost to a Royals team that was just kind of had a weird, great year. And they were basically irrelevant again after that. I think they had one more year of relevancy after the World Series, which is in 2015. Denver is the real thing. Miami got hot. Denver is actually great. And they were an embarrassment yesterday. They were, other than Jokic, not good. But Miami's just an average team. They truly are. So there you have it. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll come back. We got a lot more to get to. Question of the day is next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Middletown is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days' patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine than other coffees, which makes it better for you, yet unlike decaf coffee, still gives you that great pickup and tastes amazing. Formulated by a retired cancer pathologist, Dr. Grant Lee, Days Coffee is fermented with a patented enzyme that until now required a complex and thus expensive sourcing and production process. With Dr. Lee's formulation, this enzyme's great health benefits can now be brought to your cup quicker, easier, and cheaper than ever before. Here's how you get a hold of this game-changing cup of joe. Go over to radioonlydeals.com and get a $4 gift certificate to Days Coffee for just $2. That's radioonlydeals.com to buy your single-use digital gift certificate for Days Coffee. Radioonlydeals.com. That's radioonlydeals.com. Enjoy the preferred coffee of the Gary Ayd Show. Enjoy Days Coffee.
December is the most wonderful time of the year, but not for the reason you might think. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
Would you like to hear better for as little as 10 cents a day? Now you can with the all-new Audion hearing aids. The average hearing aid lasts about 3 years. Ours, at only $99 a pair, means you're paying as little as 10 cents a day to hear better. And to make things even better, we'll give you a 45-day money-back guarantee. Skip the doctor and get hearing aids delivered straight to your door. We've eliminated all the middlemen to offer you a factory direct price of only $99 a pair. Join over 300,000 people just like you who took advantage of our 45-day trial offer. Now you can hear better too for just 10 cents a day. Call now and order your $99 pair of Audion hearing aids with a 45-day money-back guarantee. Plus, get free 3 to 5 day shipping.
800-226-1471. 800-226-1471. 800-226-1471. That's 800-226-1471.
A morning consult poll determined that 32% of sports fans favor the 3-month stretch from October to December over any other time of the year because all 4 major professional leagues are running during parts of that stretch. Those fans live for the glorious occasion when the leagues do overlap, as it leads to the core 4 having games on the same day, a phenomenon we know as a sports equinox. Question: are you in the October to December camp, or are you more of a January to March kind of fan?
I'm a definitely the October camp of these two choices. Although my favorite time of year is really like April and May. You got baseball and you got the NBA playoffs. And even though I just got done disparaging the validity of all playoffs in terms of proving who's actually the best, it doesn't, and I did say this too, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's highly entertaining and highly drama filled and highly conversational and highly exciting and interesting. I don't get me wrong. I don't dislike the playoffs. I just don't draw the absolute conclusion every year that the team that is left standing at the end is actually the best team. I put much more stock in the regular season accomplishments than I do in postseason accomplishments. That goes for all sports. Probably more so in football than even anything else because of the one and done nature of it. I don't even think of college sports, but I guess that would apply too. But no, I love April and May. Got a lot of basketball games still, but it's all the good teams. You got baseball getting on the way. It's kind of the excitement of the new season. There's just so much to do, so much to watch. But yeah, October's it's tough to beat. I mean, you got football. I mean, you got everything. Like, I mean, you heard KO talk about it. So for me, it's the of those two, I like October. But personally, April and May really excite me. I love the first round of the NBA playoffs. It's like a more hard down extension of the regular season. You still got 16 teams or whatever playing, but you don't have any of the true bottom feeders. So I think April's probably and it's the beginning of the baseball season. April's probably my favorite month on the sports calendar. Followed closely by October, because I do love football. I mean, if there was football in April, it'd be perfect, but there's not. But I really like April a lot. I really do. One other thing about these sports equinox days when they do happen, there's not many of them, as KO said. They really are fun to examine through the prism of talk radio, because if you hear people calling in and you can kind of tell, sort of in an unofficial, unscientific way, what are the more exciting games to more people. What games are people talking about? What sports are they talking about? I think that's always an interesting observation. I know my compadre here, Rich, he loves his hockey. I'd probably stop watching sports if I only had the choice of hockey. I don't care for it at all. I make no secret of that. But it's just so much going on. So it really is very, very cool. It really is. We got one of our OC Smash coming up in hour 2 today. We have a few other things as well. Really exciting stuff. The show's got a lot of leg to it today. We're going to talk a little baseball too. So we got that going on. We'll talk more NBA. Next up is a interesting bit of breaking conspiracy. I'm not going to call it news. Breaking innuendo. Luka, LeBron, and Kyrie maybe in Dallas. This is according to Sham Charania, so it's not made up out of nothing. So we'll tackle that as well. And of course, the NBA is also talking about possibly expanding after 2024. So we'll talk about that to close out the hour. Hour 2, we'll have our OC Smash. We'll do, I'm sure Rich will bring in some hockey, and we'll do a few other things as well. It's the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
Alrighty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show. It's great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd here with you. And interesting innuendo. A little sizzle in the NBA off the court. Shams Charania, who is, along with Woj, of course, the most prolific and credible breaking news reporter in the NBA, broke the news that Kyrie Irving has reached out to LeBron James to gauge his interest in trying to force his way to Dallas. Now, people can say LeBron went and joined Wade in Miami. But remember, Wade was a free agent that year too. They agreed to all play in Miami. And that aside, LeBron has never been the I'll go join you type. He's been the you're going to come play with me. Or we're going to orchestrate, we, as in the case of Miami, choosing our own destination. And it happened to be Miami. I think personally that if they're going to play together again, it's going to be Kyrie Irving coming to wherever LeBron is, not the other way around. I have no doubt in my mind that Shams' reporting is accurate. He's one of the best in the world at what he does. But I also have no doubt that LeBron is not going to join Kyrie Irving in Dallas. I would be beyond stunned if that happened for a couple of reasons. One, I just mentioned, but the other is because LeBron's NBA career at this point is pretty much at the stage where he's just waiting to see what happens with his son, who is going to do 1 year at USC this upcoming season and then likely turn pro. And assuming that's the case, it lines up basically perfectly with LeBron's current contract, which has 1 year to go on it this upcoming season, which will be the year Bronny's at USC, and then another year in 2025 where he has a player option. Assuming he's able, I think Bronny would declare for the draft at that point, and where he goes, I would imagine, would determine where LeBron goes. And then I would think LeBron would wait till as long as he possibly could to get a good sense of where Bronny's going to be and then opt out of his contract. I don't know the timeline of that. I don't know if he'll have to opt out prior to the draft being actually done. So I know the lottery will be done by the time he has to make before he has to make an opt-out decision. But I don't know if the draft will be. I'd have to look at that timeline. But he'll wait to the latest possible date. If he can't just wait till after the draft to see where his son goes to opt out, he'll wait till as close to that as he can get and then opt out and then try to work his way onto the team that takes his son. And I would imagine any team interested in LeBron would, by extension, be looking at drafting Bronny. So that's gonna be an interesting dynamic to see what impact LeBron's status has on the draft status of his son. I imagine this could be pretty profound and pretty heavily to the advantage of Bronny. But I would be totally shocked if LeBron ended up with Dallas this year. I really, truly would be. I would be stunned. I just don't see it. Would I be as shocked to see Kyrie with the Lakers? No, I wouldn't. In fact, I would support that. I think D'Angelo Russell is not a piece you win with. If I was the Lakers, I would be moving on from him. I like Beasley. He doesn't really fit here, so I'd move on from him. Bamba really never got a shot. I think you have to move on from him. I don't like Gabriel. I don't like Brown. But they have, as far as I know, friendly contracts that are under control, so they'll probably stay. If the Lakers can figure out the math to acquire and or sign Kyrie, it's going to involve moving on from Russell, which I'm fine with. I'm not sure what else it would have to involve. But I think there's going to be some dancing to get Kyrie to the Lakers if they're interested. Although it's worth noting that the Lakers have shown, not only have they shown no interest in getting Kyrie, it's been quite beyond that. They've shown a pretty distinct interest in ensuring they don't get Kyrie. So there's that too. But I do think whatever the Lakers do, an upgrade over D'Angelo Russell is in order. Yeah, so and that's right. If you see in our chats there, person running our social is saying that basically they're saying by Kyrie reaching out to LeBron to come to Dallas, he's not willing to take a pay cut to go to LA. That's probably true, and that's fine. I don't think he's necessary for the Lakers. I think they could get one more consistent weapon in place of Russell. I don't think it has to be Kyrie. And I think you can go from there. The other thing, while we're on the topic of the Lakers, is Anthony Davis. I don't know what to do with this guy. They clearly need him, and they're clearly a title contending team when he's playing near his best, particularly defensively. But he clearly can't do that on a regular basis. He's always injured, and even when he's not injured, he's inconsistent. I don't know what you do, because you're not going to get value, and you know you're on LeBron's timeline. You're not trying. You're not doing a rebuild. So, do you just keep rolling the dice and hoping? Is there a trade out there that gets you enough back that you can remain a contender, like a star for a lesser but better fitting star, more available? Like, could you maybe trade him to, say, I don't know, Minnesota, and get Towns and maybe a secondary small piece? Does that keep you in the title contending realm? I don't think so. It decimates your defense. Towns is not a good defensive player. He is a good offensive player. I don't know what you do with Davis. I honestly don't. It's very concerning to me. It really is. Kyrie is not so much. If you can get him, you get him. D'Angelo Russell, to me, is a concern. I don't want him on this roster next year. I don't think he's a particularly good player. I would like to see him moved. For what? I don't really care. Just something functional. He did have a couple of good games. He is capable of that. We've seen that over the years, but he has a lot of stinkers too. And I don't like having too many of those feast or famine on and off type of guys on my roster. That's just something I'm not comfortable with. I want to know what I'm getting from you every night. I don't care if it's 10 points a game, but I want it to be consistent. I'd rather 10 points a game consistently than 15 or 20 some nights and 2 or 5 or 8 the next. Give me consistency. Give me consistent 10 points. That's good. Don't give me 5 one night and 20 the next. I can't build a team that way because I don't know what I have then. Right? I have no idea what I have, and you can't build a team when you don't know what you have. It's like building a house. You don't know what equipment you have. You don't know what tools you have. You don't know what materials you got. But you're going to build the house? No. You need to know that stuff before you build the house. It's the same with a basketball team. You need to know what your guys are going to bring every single night in order to build it effectively, because then you know what you need to still shore up and bring in. But if guys are so inconsistent that one night this guy might get you 12 rebounds, the next night he gets you 3, do I need rebounding? Do I not need rebounding? So, and that's something with Anthony Davis that drives you crazy, is he really, truly is not consistent. The only guy I can compare him to, another guy that played a chunk of his career with the Lakers, and that was Lamar Odom. Now, Davis is better than Odom, but on any given night, Lamar Odom often was the best player on the court. And on the other night, he was the most invisible player on the court. That type of high-low, on again, off again is not, in my opinion, sufficient. It's not going to get the job done. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got the last segment of hour 2, NBA talking about expansion. We'll break that down next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
Coffee lovers, Middletown is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days' patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine than other coffees, which makes it better for you, yet unlike decaf coffee, still gives you that great pickup and tastes amazing. Formulated by a retired cancer pathologist, Dr. Grant Lee, Days Coffee is fermented with a patented enzyme that until now required a complex and thus expensive sourcing and production process. With Dr. Lee's formulation, this enzyme's great health benefits can now be brought to your cup quicker, easier, and cheaper than ever before. Here's how you get a hold of this game-changing cup of joe. Go over to radioonlydeals.com and get a $4 gift certificate to Days Coffee for just $2. That's radioonlydeals.com to buy your single-use digital gift certificate for Days Coffee. Radioonlydeals.com. That's radioonlydeals.com. Enjoy the preferred coffee of the Gary Ayd Show. Enjoy Days Coffee.
All righty, we are back here on the Gary Ayd Show. Great to have you aboard. It's the Cave. One thing that I think is worth mentioning before we get into NBA expansion. Big news in sports media. FS1 and Shannon Sharp have agreed to a buyout. He's going to be leaving. I forget the exact date, but he's going to be leaving imminently. And reports out of Awful Announcing, which is a blog dedicated to sports media, have said that Skip Bayless will have essentially veto power, essentially hiring power for whoever is to come in his place. Now, the only other member of the sports media that has anywhere near that type of power is Stephen A. Smith at ESPN. Talking about on-air talent now. I'm not talking about, obviously, executives have that type of power. But I don't. There's good and bad to this on a couple of levels. Let's talk the macro level first. The macro level, which is the organizational level, FS1, Fox Sports, is without question the best quality sports programming right now. There's no doubt about it. It's the biggest, you got the biggest stars, the best talent. They're the best. They kick ESPN's butt right now. They're the best. Now, on the micro level, let's talk about the two talents in question here, Sharp and Bayless. Bayless clearly has made a second career. He was a journalist at one point. Hard to believe, I know. But he's made a second career as a basically blowhard. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He's made a second career as a guy who just basically acts as a contrarian, has become very successful with it financially, and has the ego to match. And that is, those would be reasons not to want to work with the guy. Sharp's reason dates back to the events of a couple of months ago when, now I forget who he was even talking about, but Skip said something that Sharp and others took to be racially motivated. And since then, Sharp has been not willing to work with them. Now, what is deemed racial now versus what is actually racist is about as far apart as what a insurance company would consider some water in the basement versus a flood, right? Like a flood means your house is gone. Water in the basement could mean you spilled a cup of water, right? It could be that cavernous, the difference. Now, Sharp is basically the same style personality as Skip Bayless, but is nowhere near as powerful in this medium, and frankly, nowhere near as good at it. And the other thing with Skip, at least I understand what he's saying. Shannon Sharp is difficult to understand at times. Shaq can be like this. Sometimes Barkley is like this. There's a handful of guys, but Sharp is probably the worst among them, of guys that are just hard to understand at times. And between everything, Sharp being angry about perceived racial biases by Bayless when none are apparent, he's not in a position, I don't think, to dictate anything to anybody. So really, in the context of this one story, you get the best and the worst. And in Bayless, you get both in the same person. It's a very interesting thing. You get the worst of sports journalism, which is Skip Bayless, and you get the best of sports journalism, which is Skip Bayless. Because look, commercially speaking, he's as successful. Him and Stephen A. Smith, those two are in the class by themselves right now. Colin Cowherd, Dan Patrick, they're within striking distance, and no one else is in their league. And Bayless doesn't engage in nuanced analytical discussion the way we try to on this show, but he's been successful, so it's hard to argue. But at the same time, his success, you could argue, is self-serving and has brought down a lot of the medium around him because of association with his style. The broader audience now associates sports talk with what he does. And I think that's a fair argument with there's something to that. And it's probably not good on the whole. And see, Dylan says Skip is a joke. I agree. Skip is a joke. I think Cowherd is great. He's the single best air talent in the entire sports universe right now, in my opinion. I don't like Kellerman either. Shannon Sharp deserves whatever's coming to him. I think Shannon Sharp's a joke too. Both of those guys fit each other because they're both loudmouths. But Skip is better at it. But I don't particularly care for either one of them. I'm just merely acknowledging the fact that Skip has attained massive success with his approach. And you can't argue that. But I would totally take Colin Cowherd in a second on any show. He's the only national sports media personality that I go out of my way to make sure I check in with. I think he's tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. All right, there you have it. Now, what about this expansion? NBA expansion. There's been some talk off again and on again for a couple of years now that the NBA would look to expand 2 more teams to 32, matching the NFL. And when that conversation comes up, the discussion of where those markets are going to be inevitably follows, and you start getting your lists. The 2 markets at this point to me that make sense are Vegas and Seattle. There's other markets I would love to see an NBA team in, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think if they expand, it's going to be to those 2 places. I think that's the bottom line. It's going to be to those 2 cities. David Stern's great regret as commissioner, Silver's predecessor and mentor, was that he didn't save the Seattle franchise. I think that is a long-established, even decorated NBA city. I think any expansion that actually becomes realized needs to start there. Like, that has to be where it goes. Vegas is just, to me, where everyone wants to go right now. You see the A's trying to move there. The Raiders recently did. It's gonna be you got the expansion hockey team there with the Kraken. They're gonna want to be there with the gaming industry being what it is now. That's gonna be the other city. I would be pretty surprised if they did an odd number, and assuming they do an even number, I'd be surprised if it was more than 2. And finally, I would be surprised if it wasn't those 2 cities. Now, for the sake of interjecting some hypothetical and conversation here, what other cities would I look at? Well, I would combine expansion with relocation. I would expand by 2 and relocate 2. The 2 expansion cities, I just told you what they are. I guess if it's easier to relocate to those 2 same cities, you do that, and then you expand into 2 other cities. The 2 teams I would relocate, though, are Charlotte and probably Charlotte's the only one that's obvious to me. See, Memphis draws very well for a market of its size. That's the thing. They really do draw well. The NBA is going to want a team in Canada. They like to say they're international. You know, the Hawks have never been great in Atlanta. And New Orleans is a type of city. I'd probably do New Orleans. That would be it. I would relocate Charlotte and New Orleans. Charlotte definitely, and I think it would come down to New Orleans, Orlando, Atlanta, and Toronto would be the teams I would consider for the other spot. And I probably would take New Orleans because they haven't been there all that long. So I would go those 2. And then where would I move them to? What are some other cities that could use some expansion? Dylan mentioned St. Louis in the context of football. I would love to see an NBA team in St. Louis. At one point, the Hawks were in St. Louis, way back when. Kansas City comes to mind. Certainly, Austin, Texas has grown a lot and could probably handle a team. Buffalo had a team at one point. Louisville. It's a big city that doesn't have anything really going on. What about Columbus, Ohio? Known for its college sports, of course, particularly football, but could they potentially handle a team? Pittsburgh comes to mind as a city that perhaps could take on an NBA team. There's a number of cities because the NBA, unlike baseball and football, it's easier to add an NBA or an NHL team than an NFL or a major league team because of the space requirements and everything else. I think there's probably a half dozen or more cities. I just named a bunch of them that could really do well. I think, Indiana with a baseball team. It's funny to hear Dylan recommend something for baseball. Would that get you watching baseball, Dylan, and if all of a sudden there was a baseball team there, or would you still ignore it like I ignore hockey? That's the question I have because Dylan can't stand baseball. But getting back to basketball, I'll say this. I think that Vegas and Seattle, without question. Then I would go probably for the other two. I'm relocating 2 and expanding by 2. I'm relocating Charlotte and New Orleans. I'm going to move Charlotte to Louisville. Keep it sort of in that, south central area. I'm going to move Charlotte to Louisville. And I'm going to move New Orleans. Austin, Texas. Honestly, Austin's an interesting city. It's not a city I would want to go to. It's very technocratic, but there's a lot of money and a lot of people there. And Texas is probably, along with New York, the most omnivorous sports state in the whole country. In other words, Texans like everything to do with every sport. We know they're obsessed with football, but they go to Rangers games. They go to the Stars games. They support the Mavericks and the Rockets. There's no question in my mind that Texas would support a third NBA team. OKC is another city. Dylan brings that up. Yeah, you can move them. It would be ironic if you moved them back to Seattle where they originally came from, way back when. But yeah, you could see that. The only thing is, I don't like moving teams out of cities where they're the only thing in town. Like, I don't want to move Utah. I don't want to move Portland. I don't want to move Memphis. And I don't want to move OKC, all for the same reason. They're all the main gig in town. And in the case of OKC, they've had some success. Even in years like these last couple of years where they haven't had success in terms of wins and losses. For all the complaining about the city being lame or this, that, and the other, they have had a lot of good players, even post Durant and Westbrook. They've had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have him now. He's elite. He's an NBA first teamer this year. Paul George was there for a while. Chet Holmgren's about to, I think, be a really good player for them. Josh Giddey is probably going to make an all-star team in the near future. They've had good players consistently, and they still do. So that's not a team I would move. Charlotte needs to go. That's the one I'm 100% about. They've never really been big fans of the NBA. It's a college area. The team has never had any success. They don't have one truly all-time great player in their entire franchise history. The best player in the history of that franchise is probably Alonzo Mourning, and he had more success with Miami than with Charlotte. Maybe Kemba Walker. That franchise has had a lot of years, decades even, to establish itself about something, and they never have. I would move them. Moving the Clippers, like Dylan says, is not going to happen. You're not going to move out of LA. They are going to move out of that building. The owner bought the old Forum, as a matter of fact, the old LA Forum. They are going to move out of that building. But ultimately, I'm moving Charlotte to Louisville, and I'm going to move New Orleans to Austin. Because I'm also trying to move them to places that are still somewhere in the same general geographic region of the country to make it a little easier. So That's how I would do it. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. Hour 2 is around the corner. We got our interview coming up next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. Hey, how's it going? It's Gary. Hi, good. How are you? Good. How you doing? Good. Sorry, I had the wrong number. So. Yeah, that's okay. Yep. My number's super weird. I get it. Yeah, it's my fault. So, all right. Well, we will have Francois on in a moment. We have about a minute and a half left on the commercial, and I'll bring you guys on. Okay. Okay. He's right here. All right. Great. We'll see you in a second. All righty, welcome back to the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave, cavetalkradio.com and the Cave Talk Radio app. We're grateful to have you aboard, and Rich Ed Selmo will be joining us momentarily. But first, we have one of our guests on. Francois Espinoza is one of our OC Smash Players of the Week. We tried to have him on last week. There was a miscommunication, so he's here now with us. What's up, man? How you doing? There we go. All right. If I hit the right button now you should be able to hear me. What's up, Francois? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. So, hey, I wanted to ask you, well, how long have you been playing baseball?
I've been playing baseball for about, if I'm 12 now, I started playing when I was 3. So I'd say
9 years.
9 years. Yeah.
That's a long time. What do you remember? What first got you into this sport? Was it family, friends? What?
So yeah, mainly it was my brother. I remember just seeing him play because my parents would take me to his games all the time over the weekend, over the week. I was young. I looked up to him all the time. And I just loved watching him play. And my dad just bought me a bat and here I am now.
That's awesome. How much older than you is your brother?
He's 25.
Oh, so he's quite a bit older than you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's your what positions do you play mostly?
I'm currently a catcher. I play catcher a lot, but if I'm not at catcher, I'm playing third base, pitcher, or the outfield.
Do you have a favorite position?
My favorite position, it has to be pitcher.
Really? Okay. Are you lefty or righty?
I'm a righty. For batting?
Pitching and batting. So you do different things with different hands?
No. For pitch. Oh yeah, because for pitching I'm a righty, and for batting I'm a lefty.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What makes pitching your favorite? Is it just that you have the ball every play? Is it is it trying to figure out, like, playing the chess game with the hitter? Like, what makes it your favorite part of this sport?
For me, the favorite part about pitching is never knowing what's going to happen next. So that feeling of just pitching the ball and just expecting the unexpected is probably one of the best feelings ever.
That's really cool. What's your out pitch if you get a hitter down 2-0? What are you trying to get him out with?
I have to throw a slider or a curveball, but I have to say curveball the most because I don't want to brag or anything, but
do it.
I have a nasty curveball.
All right, good.
And a lot of my friends say it too.
That's awesome. Is it what type of curveball is it? Is it like a 12-6 dropper? Or is it like does it move side to side? Like what kind of movement you put on it?
So the movement that I put on it is, so I try to make it look like it's gonna hit if I'm always throw it if it's a righty. I try to make it look like it's gonna hit them, but at the last second it curves right into the strike zone, maybe inside.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's a nasty out pitch. What's been your favorite part of this season so far? Well, first of all, how long have you been with the Smash? I know you've been playing baseball for 9 years. How much of that time have you been with the Smash?
I've been playing with OC Smash since the fall. Yeah.
Oh, so this is your first year with the organization?
Yeah.
What do you think? How do you like it so far? What do you like about it?
I really love OC Smash. I love how I just joined the team and all the players were so welcoming. I love how Coach Adam and Coach RJ were just so welcoming. They didn't treat me differently. They didn't treat me like an outsider. They welcomed me right in.
That's awesome. Now, where were you playing before this?
I was playing with the Chester Blue Sox for pretty much a long time, ever since I was 9. And I have to say, it was a good team. It was a really good team. And I used to live in Chester, and those were just like all of my hometown friends.
Absolutely. Chester's a wonderful little town. I grew up not far from there. I grew up in Goshen, so next town over. And
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, I grew up in Goshen. Now I'm in Middletown now, but you know, what's been the biggest, you said they were very welcoming. What's been the biggest adjustment to joining this Smash in terms of the on-field component?
The
Yeah.
the biggest adjustment was really meeting a lot of new people, because to me, to be a great ball player, to be a great team, and everything that you need is having an amazing relationship with everybody else, because you really need to have that trust. So that was a big adjustment, but that big adjustment was amazing, because we surprisingly all made the adjustment pretty quick, which is awesome.
That is really cool. And it's especially important if you're pitching or catching, because obviously those two guys, whoever the pitcher and catcher are, they have to be on the same page more than anyone else on the field.
Yeah.
Where do you find you spend the most time practicing? Like what part of the game comes most naturally to you, and what part do you maybe have to work at a little bit more?
The spot that I really probably want to work on a little bit more would be catching, because I feel like because I'm pretty much just kind of really starting to catch a lot more than I used to, and I really feel like there's some stuff that I can fix here and there.
Yeah, now catching is a challenging position there. I mean, first of all, you got to be in that position the whole game. But what have you noticed as far as the competition level with the Smash versus maybe where you've played before? Is it about the same, better, or worse? What have you noticed in terms of the on-field competition level?
So for me, the on-field competition level, really, the competition level, I don't want to say it's gotten better, but for me, competition is all about who wants the game more during the game. So we can't just break down as soon as we start losing. And then to me, if the other team starts to break down after one run, then that's really not the type of competition that really is a high level. But for OC Smash, our competition is pretty good, because we always have a bunch of kids in our team always picking each other up, picking ourselves up, so we can really stay in the game as much as we can.
That's really awesome. Who's your favorite major league player?
My favorite major league player has to be, that's a hard one, because I like Aaron Judge, Bryce Harper, and Jordan Alvarez.
Okay.
Also, I love Acuna and Shohei Ohtani, so I would have to go with Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, well, he just does everything so well. See, I'm a Met fan, so my guy's Alonso, but I'm a big Pete Alonso guy. But Ohtani's pretty exciting. Maybe he'll be a Met. Who knows?
Yeah.
What's been your favorite place you've gotten to play so far this season with the Smash in terms of like a location?
My favorite place that I've gotten to play with OC Smash this year has to be Rifkin. The thrill of that tournament was amazing.
Yeah, that was just a few weeks ago, right? 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think we went there in the beginning of May.
Yeah. That's really cool. I actually drove by there myself. I went to an Orioles game with my family 2 weeks ago, and on the route we took, drove right past that complex. You could actually see it from the highway. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was amazing.
What's last couple of things here for you? What's been your favorite baseball memory over the years from playing? A pitch, a game, a moment? Like, what's been your favorite baseball memory?
My favorite baseball memory, my favorite baseball memory has to be my home run that I actually hit last week. It was my first one. And it was, for me, it was crazy. Just seeing it go over the fence, I felt like I was in a dream. I was just waiting for myself to wake up.
Oh, that's awesome. When did you know? Did you think it was gone when you hit it? Like, when did you have to watch it to go over the fence to know it was gone, or did you feel pretty good when you hit it? Like, tell me about it.
So when the pitch came in, as soon as I hit it, I knew it was a fact that it was gonna go gone, that it was gonna leave the park because the swing that I had no vibration in it, and it was. Then I saw it on the bat. It was right on the sweet spot of the barrel,
Mm.
and as soon as it left the bat, you can see it just flying and flying and flying. And I probably took about 2 steps and just put my hands up because you can say it was gonna go.
That's so cool. What part of the field did you hit it out to? Right center, left center? Where was it?
I hit it in the right field side.
That's cool. That's awesome. Were there any runners on, or what was it?
No, it wasn't. There was no runners on.
Solo
It
home
was
run.
it was the only. It was the second pitch of the whole game because I was leading off.
Oh, oh wow, that's awesome. A leadoff home run. That's even cooler. When do you guys play next? When's your next tournament? You have games this weekend?
Yes, actually, I am playing a tournament in Newburgh. It's a USABL tournament.
Ooh, awesome. Well, enjoy it. And are you pitching this weekend, you think?
Maybe, hopefully, I'll pitch this weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, well, enjoy it. And thanks for joining us. All right.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
All righty. And there we have it. That is Francois Espinosa. This is the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All righty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show, hour number 2, and Rich Anselmo is with us. Good interview there with Francois Espinosa. Very forthcoming, very well-spoken young man. I tell you what, some of these kids, man, I'm convinced one of these days they're gonna be in this very industry. I mean, some of these kids really speak very well.
They do. They really do.
Yeah, he did a very good job. That was
quite confident too.
Yes, he's not nervous at all. Very, very cool. That's cool that he just hit his first home run just a couple of days ago. That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
Good timing.
and I remember mine. It's a thrill.
The only home run I ever hit was an inside the Parker that had about 6 errors with it. So I don't know if that even counts, but
Hey, the Rays did that to the Red Sox yesterday. They hit a little league home run that went all over the place and bounced around, and
it's like
Red Sox, it was was funny.
It's like the Angels in the outfield scene where it's like, bouncing all over the place, people hitting each other in their face with gloves.
Yeah.
That's an old school movie. That movie's got about almost 30 years old, probably.
Isn't that unbelievable?
It really is. I was a kid when that came out. I remember watching that with my dad and my sister. My sister was really young. I mean, that was either 94 or 95, somewhere around there. So I was like 9 or 10. My sister, who's 3 years younger, was obviously.
Yeah, I think that was when Danny Glover paid his taxes.
That's right. That's right. That's how long ago that's been. My dad always loved that movie. And it used to tick him off that the father would just like dump his kids. He's like, yeah, I don't know how people do that. But anyway, so that was cool. So all right. Before you came on, we were kind of finishing up an interesting conversation. Adam Silver made the comment that the NBA will address expansion at the conclusion of finalizing the new CBA for 2024. So probably sometime next year, we'll get some more details on this. I narrowed it down to, obviously, if they do expand, they're going to expand by an even number. So you assume 2 teams. And
right, they're going to go to 32.
Right.
Other leagues are.
Right. I would assume those 2 markets would be Seattle and Vegas.
Right.
Now, to make this more interesting, both for the sake of conversation and for my own, what I would do is I would expand by 2 and relocate 2. In the relocated teams, I think you have a lot more options. You have to go to Vegas and Seattle. I don't think you really have a choice in the matter. Those 2 markets have to have teams, I think.
Seattle should have never lost.
Right, team. Right. That's a make good, and it's also a great historic NBA market. And then Vegas is just the place to be right now if you're a sports team. But to make it more interesting, I'm relocating 2 teams. First of all, Charlotte, the hell with Charlotte. They've never been good. It's a college area. They have no history. I mean, they've been around a long time with a short hiatus between the 2 renditions and never accomplished anything. I'm moving Charlotte, and I'm also moving New Orleans. And I think for me, there's about 5 or 6 markets that really would make some sense. I mean, Louisville comes to mind, Austin, Texas, Kansas City, St. Louis, all come to mind. I thought of Columbus, Ohio, might be another 2 college heavy area, but certainly a big population there.
It's also territorial to Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a little too close. So that's probably not the best one. But I thought Louisville for Charlotte and Austin for New Orleans. I'm also trying to keep the teams that are relocated to the same general geographic vicinity of the country.
Well, New Orleans, if they go anywhere east of Texas, can be in the Eastern Conference where they belong.
Well, there's that too, yes.
Because if you bring in 2 Western Conference teams, one of them has to move east.
Right.
Well, Seattle or Vegas can't.
That's true.
New Orleans has no business in the West. Neither does Memphis, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do?
Geographical relocation would have to be done.
Right. Now that's an interesting question. Forget the let's table my hypothetical 2 relocations for a second. Let's just go forward with the assumption that they're going to expand by 2 teams, and when they do, it's going to be Vegas and Seattle. I think that's a reasonably safe assumption.
Yes. Yes.
What does that do, if anything, to shuffling teams back into maybe more geographically logical places? Now that those 2 teams are clearly West Coast, those are 2 markets that are indisputably, they'll probably both be in the Pacific Division, right? I mean, they'd have to be.
Right.
Certainly Seattle would be, and Vegas kind of has
may
to be.
Not be.
Yeah, you might put them in the mountain region, mountain division,
Yes.
I suppose.
Yes. It 1, it makes sense, and 2, you can't have that many teams in the Pacific Division.
Right. So they're going to go in the Northwest Division, most likely Vegas. And because the Pacific Division is the most logical division of all of them. Every team in that division is pretty much Pacific. It really is. I mean, they're all California except for Phoenix. So Uh, but does that mean they don't necessarily both have to be. I mean, I suppose they do kind of sort of have to be in the Western Conference. That's the other thing. You can't really fix any of the glaring weaknesses here. With you mentioned New Orleans, they should be not.
Between them and Memphis, how close to the West Coast are they?
Yeah, I mean,
Now, New Orleans is fairly close to Texas.
Well, that's why I moved them in my hypothetical to Austin for that reason. And I think Austin would be a good
would
market.
actually push them in the Western Conference.
Right. Assuming we don't do that, could you move New Orleans?
Really want 4 teams in Texas.
Could you move New Orleans out of the Southwest and move Vegas in there and then put New Orleans somewhere else? Like, could you put them into, I don't know, because there's going to be 2 divisions that have an odd number now, right? They have an even number because all the divisions right now have 5 teams. So with this expansion, 2 divisions will have 6 teams, right? It's unavoidable. So.
Right. So something's going to have to go east.
Right. So New Orleans can go east and maybe join, I guess the Central would make the most sense.
Or Memphis can join the Central.
Memphis join the Central and New Orleans Southeast. Well, you could and just put the 2 teams in that division. Now only one division has 6 teams. Because they're both the ones that make the most sense to move to align more closely with where they actually are in the country.
Yeah.
So
but I don't think you'd have to move 2 because if you're adding 2 teams, one would be west and one would be east.
Well, no, the 2 teams you're adding are both Western teams. You have Vegas and Seattle. So if you take, let's say you put New Orleans.
Yeah, but you only one.
Right. Well, I'm talking the 2 teams that we're moving. Let's step back here. So we're doing the Southwest. Let's say we move New Orleans from the Southwest to the Southeast, and we move Memphis from the Southwest to the Central. There's 4 teams left. 3 teams left in the Southwest. You can put Vegas in the Southwest easily enough. And then you would
Phoenix in the South.
And maybe move Phoenix to the Southwest. Now that puts them back at 5, and then you put Seattle in the Pacific, and that puts them back.
Right.
So now you still have 5 teams in all 3 Western divisions, and you have, I guess, 6 each in the Southeast and the Central.
Why I said that.
Right, because now there's an unbalanced alignment of the conference.
Right. Have to equal it out.
Yeah.
Team that makes the most sense going to the West
is New Orleans, right? So you move them to Texas in the relocation. Now that's definitely the West. You keep them in the Southwestern Division where they are, and then you move Memphis out to probably the Southeastern Division with Orlando and Charlotte and Atlanta and Washington. That's probably the closest we're going to get.
Right.
Could do the Central, I suppose, but I think they're more Southeast than Central.
Yeah, that makes the most sense geographically.
Right. And then you add the expansion teams. You add 1 to the Pacific and then 1 to the Southwest.
Yeah, it all.
You could do it a few different ways. I think I'm most.
But you want 16 in each conference.
Yes, yeah. You have to make sure that happens. That's true. But I would now getting back to the relocation. The cities I had under consideration were Charlotte. To me, was the absolute. We're going to relocate. That market's just not an NBA market. It never has.
The NBA has no interest in relocating.
I understand. This is my interest. This is me.
Okay.
Yeah. This is just my own. Because to me, the only thing to discuss with the expansion is just what we just went through, the exercise of where does it mean for all the divisions. Because when they do expansion, it's going to be 2 teams, and it's going to be Vegas and Seattle. There's nothing else that's going to be considered, I wouldn't think. So just
if they didn't do Seattle,
well, no, it has to be those two markets. I'd be shocked if it wasn't those two. So just to make the conversation a little bit more interesting, I relocated two franchises because then once you get past those two markets, there's probably a half a dozen or so other markets that make some sense that aren't the slam dunks of those two. Louisville is one of them.
college basketball town.
Yep, college basketball town.
I don't think it would work.
Cincinnati came to mind. They've had teams there in the past. Kansas City, the same thing. St. Louis, those three Midwestern cities all came to mind. Of course, Buffalo came to mind.
These cities have all failed.
But most of them haven't had a shot in quite a while. I mean, you talk about Cincinnati and Kansas City in particular. It's been like many decades. Same with Kansas City.
Kansas City bombed them.
Yeah, Kansas City. But that was, I mean, how long ago was that? That was.
Kansas City and State.
I'd be curious about St. Louis now because of the fact that essentially they only have baseball there. There's nothing else there. Oh yeah, the Blues are still there. That's right. Which makes it even more appealing because usually NBA and NHL teams share arenas. I would go probably if I had my pick. I would go Austin, Texas, and I would go probably St. Louis. Those would probably be my two choices. One is the East, one is the West. St. Louis has the NHL team, so you have a arena. Austin has grown so much population-wise. There's so much money there. And Texas is omnivorous. Its consumption of sports. I know it puts 4 teams. I think it can handle it. I really do. And Austin's its own distinct region.
Yes.
It's its own thing. It's surprising that they don't really have, I guess, technically, what the Texas Rangers play somewhere near there, right?
That's a ways away.
Yeah, it is, right?
And the only thing there
right, and the University of Texas. Right. Yeah, that would probably be my. What else we got going on today? Let's take a quick break. But we got NHL stuff to get to. I want to get your take on Game 2. We'll revisit that. And we got some news. So take a break. We'll come right back and we'll get into those three things. It's the Gary Ayd Show back after this here on the Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. Airlines you can get low prices. They have access to discounts at over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are totally published online. You can book another trip, treat yourself to dinner, or shopping. Stop searching all of these travel sites to find the lowest price of your next one. Let SmartFares travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today. Get ready to see the world.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
You watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then, if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, let's get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you. With the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. The IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more back taxes, and they're coming after you. Don't panic. Call my friends and get a tax lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they reduce a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
Alrighty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show, and NHL Finals is ongoing. What do we got going on in hockey, Rich?
We got game 2 tonight. Vegas is smart enough to know that one game doesn't win a series. They realize that the battles are 4 and they on exactly what I think was all there. Vegas, they're solid. Vegas is hard on the puck, and they were. Florida, though, not rusty at all. Like that. The NHL announced their stadium series. Sorry, the Navy's out of Oh, this is driving me nuts. It's in East Rutherford, February 17th and 18th. All 3 New York City area teams will be involved. In fact, all 4 teams could actually go. Those are Flyers on 17th and Rangers in the Island on the 18th. That should be interesting. The leagues wanted to play a game in that stadium for so long. They had a while ago. But I think this is great for the Tri.
Is that going to be? Is that going to be the outdoor game?
They're going to be the stadium series. There's a couple of outdoor games.
Got it.
And they're playing them both in MetLife, both on back-to-back days. It's a good idea. It's smart. It'll cancel the expense of having to do it in 2 separate places. There's a lot that goes into this. So it works. I think it works. This Blue Jackets are going to hire Babcock as their next coach. Brilliant mind for a coach, but the way he works with players is terrible. I know since he's been out of the league for a couple of years, he's worked with kids, and I hope that gave him a different approach. I really do. And interview is hopeful. Solution to keep building Arizona. I know you. But if the fans there that apathetic, if you're worried about American size, go to Houston. It's a bigger market. Or go to Salt Lake City, which the Jazz ownership is dying for a chance. Dying for a chance to get an NHL team. And I think it would work in Salt Lake City. They have an CHL team that draws them amazing. But what do I know? Just to get
Guy on the radio, as I like to say.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm looking forward to game 2 tonight. We learned from game 1 how consistent, how physical this is defensively. Florida came out just trying to hit everything. That's all it took was put them in the penalty box. Vegas hit 7 power plays and scored on 2 of them. I have no problem with wanting to be physical. I like physical hockey, but it can't be too.
Yeah, there's a difference between physicality and unnecessarily rough for no reason.
Right.
Like Vince Lombardi used to draw a clear distinction between violence and brutality.
Yes.
And violence is a necessary part of football. It's the bedrock of the sport. I mean, the whole sport is based around guys hitting each other at the line of
Right.
scrimmage. I mean,
It's a necessary part of hockey.
right. It's maybe not quite as fundamental in hockey as it is in football. I mean, literally in football, it's like the base of every single play. But it's certainly
You don't win playoff hockey if you're not physical.
yeah, but it's not the foundational piece of the sport the way it is in football, but it's certainly a huge part of the game. I'm not trying to disparage it in any way. All I'm saying is that in football, it's the start of every single play. 2/3 of the people on the field at any point there, people rooting for the player, hit the guy. That's what they're there to do.
And Vegas was very smart to respond.
Yes.
They just kept taking the power play. The only person that responded, other than he was slung something.
Sure, that's the last guy they wanted to be slugging.
Yeah. And well, two Florida guys took a shot at the goalie, and I could it up, which is what he did. And for my money, he was the best player on the ice in game. Did he get a goal? No, he had 2 assists, 2 great setups on their goals, and was all over the ice defensively. And he had a bunch of hits, a few puck steals, played a complete game, and was great.
Yeah.
Not as exciting as what Kyrie wants to do, but did you cover that in the first hour?
Yes, I did.
First of all, LeBron's on the contract.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. I'll say this. I think for me, the last thing I'll say on that is there's no reason for LeBron to go to Dallas. There's nothing. It accomplishes nothing, right? Like he's not going to go there. He's got a year under his contract here in LA, and then next year when his son would be potentially eligible. When I say next year, I mean 2025. He has a player option. So if his goal is to stick around to play with his son, he plays this year with LA. He got a puncher's chance of making another finals run. And then he goes and waits to see what happens with his son, opts out, and then proceeds from there accordingly. If the Lakers happen to draft him, then he opts in.
Right.
That's how he's going to play this. I mean, if Kyrie wants to come to LA and they can figure out a way to make it work, then that's a different story. I'll tell you this: this wouldn't be enough to get Kyrie, but it would be a big step in the right direction. D'Angelo Russell, his contract, I have no use for him. He's not good enough to be as inconsistent and temperamental as he is, and I'm happy to move on. He's a talented player, but there's a lot of talented players, and
it wouldn't be enough for the Mavericks.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be enough.
What's your take on something that Shams came out with? That they're in serious talks with the Hawks for Trae Young.
I mean,
I don't think he's a good fit in LA.
I don't think he's a good fit anyway. To me, he's the modern Kemba Walker, a volume shooter, and that's it. Like he's not. I don't even consider him a great player. He's at times great shooter, and at times not a great shooter. He's just a shooter. He's an undersized shooter. He's not an impressive player. He's got an attitude. I want no part of him. That would not.
I hear people say he's Steph Curry too. No, he's not. He's not.
He's not close. Jamal Murray's far closer to Steph Curry than Young ever will. I mean, if you're going to make that archetype, I don't want D'Lo. You want him, Dylan? We'll make that Miles Turner and Buddy Hield trade finally. You can have D'Lo. You can have. There you go. You can have D'Angelo Russell. Here you go. We'll take Hield and Turner there. Oh, By the way, speaking of Indiana, you see, Rich, that Halliburton has committed to Team USA?
Yes,
That's pretty cool.
I was glad about that.
Yep.
Doesn't get a spotlight, a national spotlight. Get it, and I want to see him get it because he deserves it.
There you go. That's really cool. I mean, I was happy to see him because he's an excellent young player. He's probably one of the best. Like, I would take him over Trey Young any day of the week.
Absolutely.
If I'm building a team and I have the choice of those two guys, it's not even a hard decision.
Oh, it would be close.
Yeah, that's an easy choice. Halliburton brings a lot to the table.
He does.
Let's get into game 2 in the NBA. Kind of rehash this a little bit. I touched on it at the beginning of the show. Wanted to get your take on it. We talked about it a little bit via text as it was ending last night.
I'll reiterate the points I made to you in the text.
Yep.
Spoelstra switching to a zone affected that pick and roll. It was a huge adjustment. It's going to be important in game 3 to see what adjustment Denver comes back to that. Everybody's given Bam a lot of love, and Gabe Vincent and Robinson. They all deserve it. How about Kevin? Guy didn't play in game 6 or 7 Eastern Conference, right? He started last night because Martin wasn't feeling up to it. Martin was pretty sick. Love played 22 minutes, disrupted Jokic's passing more than Bam does. And he also got them 10 rebounds. And it kept Jokic's offensive rebound numbers a touch lower than they have. I thought that was a great move. Very understated. Excellent. He did a lot of things that no one else was doing.
Yeah. See, I agree with everything you just said there. The one thing that I would add to it, and this was my main thing, is Denver's other guys, particularly Porter and Pope, those two in particular.
Porter was sleepwalking out there.
They were zero. Porter was a nothing. And
Pope has those nights though.
well, he's not like a scorer, but he was invisible. I mean, he's usually a key cog in the swing game, and he just wasn't there. It looked to me like basically, and it wasn't all the zone because they started out like they started out basically dead. He got out to that big lead. They came back, and a lot of that comeback was powered by Brown and Murray. And then all of a sudden, because you remember a lot of that comeback when they even took the lead, Jokic was on the bench for. And then they went back to sleep for the rest of the game, and Jokic basically single-handedly kept them in it.
He did.
I mean, he played brilliantly. What, he had 45
point
points?
third quarter.
Yeah, he's amazing.
One of the stretches of basketball I've ever seen, including that coast-to-coast.
Wasn't that
Oh
crazy?
my God. I'm like, dude, you are not athletic enough.
And he did it. You know what?
Yeah, but he did it anyway.
You know, when I was watching that, is the power of great broadcasting. In my mind, he never was associated with basketball in any way. But all I could hear was Chris Berman, bumbling.
And that's pretty much what it was. Try to stop it.
Oh no, you can't. That's why you get away with it. I mean, that whole thing looked uncoordinated, slow, and like he was gonna dribble the ball off his foot at any time. And when he threw it up at the rim, it was gonna break the glass. But yet he was under control in his weird looking way and soft touch, despite the fact that he looked like he was totally out of control. It was a weird play.
Yeah. And that thing I said you gave Vincent, that's heat culture.
Yes.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And Duncan Robinson, I mean, he found himself on the bench. All of a sudden, you noticed last night out of his buckets, 2 or 3. The other ones were on drives to the basket. He's added an element to his game that got back in the lineup. And believe me, being out of the lineup, that doesn't help him financially. He's got to play a certain number of minutes. And in a certain number of games, it hurt him this year, but he's worked his way back in. And I give him a lot of credit for making those improvements.
Oh yeah, you have to. He's been I mean, he's been one of the pieces that will have a game here, a stretch there for the Heat. And they have a number of these guys. It's been by committee. Yeah.
Martin was really sick.
Hmm.
He couldn't give them yesterday. But Love stepped up. I mean, he's fallen right into this.
One of my new favorite sports factoids is Kevin Love has been in the playoffs 5 times in his whole career, and every time he's made the finals.
I sent you that.
Yeah, you sent it. I've seen it in a few other places, both social and on game broadcasts. It's quite a stat, quite a factoid.
I think it's one of those great things.
It's definitely a good one. One of probably my all-time favorite sports facts that will never change, and I just think it's like literally out of this world. Is a baseball fact, which is more men have walked on the moon than have scored against Rivera in the playoffs. And that'll never change, right? Because even if more guys walk on the moon, well, it'll just further it. Rivera's not pitching anymore.
There's a lot of people who think that didn't happen.
Well, can't please everybody, Rich.
I got to stir the pot.
Absolutely. Can't please everybody. But yet those same people will say aliens walk on Earth, but we didn't walk on the moon, right? Yeah, okay, sure.
Right.
Like I always tell people with that extraterrestrial stuff, and I'm like this with a lot of things, Bigfoot, all these things. Like I have to like meet them and shake their hand to believe. Like that's my threshold of proof is I need to personally experience it.
I have no desire to do that.
Oh, I'm not saying I want to, but that's what it would take me to make me a believer in that stuff. I'd have to meet them in person. Like, I'd have to be there in the room when E.T. said, "E.T. phone home." I need to be there. Yeah, that's as close as I want to get to extraterrestrials. Though, is that it's still a good movie. It's good enough. What do we got for news we can use?
Go back and check your texts again. Out of everything that I've sent you.
Right on the air here. All right, let's see.
I want your take on this Jeff Van Gundy nonsense.
Oh, I saw this one. Jeff's bored. He has to be. Like, what else explanation can there be? Eliminate free throws until the last 4 minutes. If you get fouled on a shooting foul, you just get the points. What? First of all, when do free throws become automatic? You never heard of Shaq before? You met Andre Drummond? Remember Wilt Chamberlain? Come on. You don't go to the line and you don't go to the line for technical free throws. You just point. Then I would eliminate halftime. Halftime is the biggest waste of time, or reduce it to 5 minutes. The problem with that is people that watch the game really halftime. That second point a little more sensical. We'll talk about that one for a second. The free throw thing is stupid. But the halftime thing, I kind of see where he's coming from, but you have to understand the way games are consumed on television. People that watch 2.5 hour games rely on that halftime to go eat, to go cook something, like it's 5 minutes.
The bathroom, every player relies on it.
Well, he said use the bathroom in his own quote, 5 minutes to use the bathroom, but it needs to be longer than that. I don't have a problem with halftime the way it is. I get where he's coming from, but I think you have to, because there's definitely been times when I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, can we just fast forward through halftime? Like, I've definitely been watching games when I've wanted to do that. But then there's times when it's like, okay, good, it's halftime. I'm going to go finish what I was cooking. So I understand it, but I would leave it alone. The first one, the free throw thing is just dumb. Now, if you want to say,
and I'll tell you what, Memphis might have been the one seed in effect.
Yeah, and that's very true. Right. It's very true. You can't just assume it's gonna go in. Um, you can't just assume that. No, just leave free throws. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel here. This is the thing. Baseball needed to do some reinvention. The NBA, the game is pretty well perfect the way it is. You don't have to screw with it. It doesn't take long. It's action packed. The free throws and the funny thing is, he says until the last 4 minutes. If there's ever a time when the free throws drive people crazy, it is the last 4 minutes.
The last 2 minutes of a half, or especially the end of a game, take forever.
Yes. If you want to try to do something with that, to expedite that.
How?
How? I mean,
If a team's in a game, they're gonna foul,
right.
Clock, they're going to use their timeouts.
You just have to live with it.
Part of the strategy of the game. Like I said, the same morons bitch about an time of an NBA game, which is usually, it's not overtime, between 2:05 and 2:50.
Right.
They sit through 3.5-hour NFL games, which have more dead time than soccer.
We disagree on football. I mean, it's certainly longer, but I never
It's
feel
a hell of a
bored.
lot longer, which is why I don't consume.
Yeah, I've never once felt bored during an NFL game, like there's nothing going on.
Oh God,
I the only sports I've ever felt that way with were baseball before these rule changes, and of the sports I watch, which has just been baseball. As far as the 3 sports I really watch, but that being aside, if you want to do something, the one thing you could do is, and this only barely nips at the margins. It wouldn't do a lot, but it wouldn't hurt to do either. You could, during the last 2 minutes, ostensibly most timeouts are taken more or less to stop the clock or move the ball up. You could then just continue play, like you stop the clock and you actually don't go to the huddle. You could do that.
although a lot of times they're designing a play.
Right. So but you have your full timeouts and your half time. So your half timeouts become just clock stoppers. You don't actually go to the huddle, and the full timeouts become actual timeouts. You could do easily enough, and it wouldn't affect anything. It would speed things up a tiny bit, but I just don't see the reason for it. There's nothing.
I don't think there's anything.
I agree. I agree. That's the one thing. If you were going to do something, that would be the one thing you could do that wouldn't totally just smash the cadence of the game. That you could. And I would even be okay with that because realistically, those 30-second timeouts or whatever, most of the time when you call them, it's to advance the ball. You can't really do much game planning or play drawing in a 30-second timeout anyway. There's only so much you can do there.
True.
And you're not giving guys, they're not just touching their breath. These guys are in great shape. I said that to a friend. I was watching the game yesterday. I said, just watching the NBA sometimes makes me get out of breath. The speed and the ferocity that they move up and down the court with is just so epic.
And the visiting team. That's why it's easier to win game 2 of the series in Denver, game 1.
Because of the altitude.
By game 2, you're slightly more.
Yep.
Like LeBron said, you never get used to it.
Right.
You get older.
Yeah.
I understand that. We got a couple minutes. I got a couple.
Yeah, what do we got?
Liam Hendricks got a win yesterday on National Cancer Survivors Day. I just think that's extremely cool.
That is awesome.
And it's one of my favorite stories.
That's really good.
It always has been. I am glad to see him back. Did we discuss this Friday about the Phoenix Suns bringing back Frank Vogel?
No, I think we might have mentioned that he got hired, but we didn't really discuss it. It's a great hire.
I think it's a very good hire.
They hired Fizdale as an assistant today, too.
Yeah. Which is the best role for him.
Yes. Yeah, he's a good assistant coach. I agree.
Speaking of assistants getting hired, the Nets hired Kevin Holly.
Who is their head coach right now? The Nets? Who did they hire? They still have Vaughn? No,
Have they hired?
I don't think so. So it's weird that they're hiring an assistant. Like, who's their head coach?
Oh, Vaughn is still there.
He is. He is. Okay, I was gonna say. Okay, so he's the assistant to Vaughn. Okay, good. Yeah, Jacques Vaughn earns that.
But Ollie's worked in the NBA before. He's a good.
Yeah, he was a coach in the NBA for a few years before going to the college ranks.
Yeah,
And
he was a finalist for the Pistons. Yeah.
and you can make the argument that his whole playing career was basically as an assistant coach. So he was one of those guys that just like was barely on a roster for a long
He
time.
was.
He was like another guy that was like that. Ollie's career was a little bit longer, but Rick Carlisle, the type of guy. He like
Yes.
barely was on the roster for about 8 or 9 years or something. He was always more of a coach than a player.
Steve Kerr was like that when he was late in his career too.
Yeah, but he had actual playing roles throughout his career.
Yes.
You know, more so than Ollie or Carlisle ever did. That's true. All right, what you got? One more?
Yeah. Zlatan Ibrahimovic retired. Great 22-year career, and mostly internationally, but some with the LA Galaxy here. I'm one of the few players in that sport I've actually enjoyed watching play. So I just want to tip the cap to him for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
And to show you how fickle soccer fans are. You know, Messi played his last game yesterday for PSG, Paris Saint-Germain. He missed a shot and they booed him off.
no, no credit earned over all those years. Huh?
Yeah, which is absolutely ridiculous.
That is pretty funny.
And I like the way Ibrahimovic did it anyway. He just said, "Hey, I'm done. Goodbye."
That's it. I'll end it on this note. The Renegades snot out of the Aberdeen Ironbirds the other day, 9-0. So all the offensive woes that Joe was talking about Thursday, at least temporarily, have been resolved. So we'll keep tabs on them the next couple of days, and I'm sure we'll talk to Joe about it on Thursday. That does it for us. We will see you tomorrow. 4 to 6 here on the